On day one, the sexualization of our kids, pole dancing, and all this other crap that's going on will be forbidden in our schools. On day one, all the pornographic books that are in elementary schools will be pulled out. On day one and done, critical race theory is out the window. Yep. That's right. Yep. Come on.
Yeah, day one and done is the feeling most women had after their first date with Doug Mastriano. But nonetheless, he's a Republican Pennsylvania gubernatorial candidate. And he was telling the people of the great state of Pennsylvania in that little spiel that he plans on doing diddly squat for them on his first day in office, should he win that gubernatorial race. He's facing off with Democrat Josh Shapiro in the general election. And I would go for Shapiro. Because again, what Mastriano is saying there is, I'm not gonna do anything for you guys, because everything he listed is a non-issue. Kids in elementary school aren't doing pole dancing, and they certainly aren't watching porn in their classrooms, okay? I mean, the schools don't even have enough funding for textbooks they need. The idea that they've got like a Brazzers subscription and they're watching porn in class is ridiculous. But these are the kinds of non-issues they campaign on, because what else would they do? I mean, what else would they campaign on? We're gonna hold corporations responsible for robbing you and not paying their fair share in taxes? Hell no, they're funded by those guys. So they gotta find something to run on. So why not manufacture nonsense to outrage the people of Pennsylvania?
Yeah, but they did like it. I mean, they were cheering. Interestingly, cheered harder for getting rid of CRT, I think, than all of the Save the Children stuff. It should all be equally, it shouldn't merit applause, since that stuff isn't actually happening. As Anna points out, they don't, American schools don't even have good enough internet to stream high definition porn, okay? Like, it's not an actual problem. But if you're a conservative, I get that you've been convinced that this is serious. Like us saying, by the way, CRT literally is not being taught in a single second grade class means nothing to them, because they think that it does. They think that there are pole dancing classes in kindergarten. They think that there are litter boxes in the bathrooms. They have been convinced to believe insane things. And so the job of a candidate like Mastriano is to just play that insanity. But if you are a conservative and you have not been 100% brainwashed, like, I would beg of you to think about the actual problems going on in your life, because he's not going to address literally any of them. Like, imagine if you had a car and it was falling apart and you brought it into the mechanic and you said, like, my wheels are falling off, my engine doesn't work, and the transmission makes a whole bunch of weird noises. And the mechanic was like, well, don't worry, I'm gonna fix all that. I'm gonna get the unicorn off your roof, and you got a troglodyte humping your tailpipe. We're gonna shoo him away. And then the sprites that have taken up in your AC unit, we're gonna get rid of them too. You would be shocked at the madness before you. But what if you had been watching late night TV for the last few years and Tucker Carlson had told you to worry about troglodytes humping your tailpipe? Like, you might find after a couple of years that would be convincing to you, but it isn't actually solving your problems. And so why would you trust a guy who is so obviously playing to nonsensical made up stuff? You know he doesn't care about your wages, your odds of retiring, your ability to pay for your health insurance. You know that because he's not even talking about the topics.
This whole brouhaha about schools sexualizing students and all of that. I mean, are parents involved at all? Because this is what I always wonder about this. I get that there are a lot of parents who are super busy and they might not have the time to be a little bit of a helicopter parent like my mom was. So my mom knew everything that was going on in school. She was there all the time, okay? And so if anyone had told her, hey, they're showing your daughter's class pornography, she would just do the basics, like look into it. She would inquire about the curriculum and whether or not there's any explicit content being shown in these classrooms. The thing that shocks me is it doesn't matter how outlandish the accusation is. No one seems to want to verify the accusation that's being made. They just kind of take it at face value. And what is it about I don't know, some portion of the country, it might be most people in the country, who are so ready and willing to take the sleaziest politicians' words at face value and just go along with it and be scared, like constantly live in a state of fear over issues that don't even really exist.
Well, I mean, you know that in a lot of elections, really milquetoast, awful Democrats will try to make the election about how bad the other side is. And it's often not that difficult to do because the other side is pretty bad. Well, you know that the other side in this case has convinced everyone in that room that you and I, because we are liberals, we are satanic pedophiles. And so by comparison, Doug Mastriano might be sleazy or Ted Cruz might be a little weenie, but at least I guess they're not satanic pedophiles. So I guess we should side with them. That's like that makes it a little bit easier.
How could anyone say that we're satanic, John? Like, look at us.
I mean, I guess I'm an atheist. I guess I'm a step closer.
Oh, that's true.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
yeah.
It's like,
except when you're an atheist, you don't really believe in Satan. But
nonetheless, no, he's equally made up. They never seem to understand that point. But yeah, so look, it is one of the worst things you can do politically, to train people to only think about politics through the lens of things that you've made up. That's insane. But they have one tech tool that's helping make that work. As you point out, every one of those parents has never seen like a stripping pole or something in a classroom they go to. They don't read the books in the library, but if they did, they would find that they are not hardcore pornography. So how can it work? Well, it can work because they don't need to see those things in their school. First of all, they trust Republican politicians implicitly, but more importantly, they are presented with made up stories from somewhere else. So Ben Shapiro, who will never cover the actual news, he'll have some story about a second grade teacher in Louisiana saying the word gay or something. Or Tucker Carlson will be able to highlight that in San Francisco, there was a drag show or something. They don't need to see it in their actual school because it's fed to them by libs of TikTok. Now it's all made up, it's all fantasy, but they believe that it's this pervasive problem. Nobody ever needed to prove the rainbow parties were happening or any of these other urban myths, but that didn't stop parents from around the country being terrified by it because they heard about it anecdotally.
What were the rainbow parties?
Google it. Anyway, just one of these myths that parents believe. That's how it works. Is they hear it through the grapevine, but in this case, it's the Fox News grapevine or the Telegram grapevine or the Truth Social grapevine. They believe, okay, maybe I haven't seen it, but it's everywhere, so it's probably here too.
Listen, if having children means that you're gonna live in a state of unjustified fear, maybe reconsider having kids. Like if it's gonna be that easy to scare you into thinking, I don't even know what rainbow parties are, but I mean.
Oh, I thought you were joking. I can't say it on air.
No, I really don't know what that is.
It's explicit. Okay. You can read about it in books in elementary school libraries.
Don't even say that because they'll clip it out.
There's a how-to guide.
Well, lip says that they're doing it. But anyway, here's what the real problem is in states like Pennsylvania. If you're concerned about what's transpiring in public schools, elementary schools, the number one concern should be, is my child receiving a quality education and is my child's school properly funded to ensure that they have the resources necessary that my child is receiving a quality education? And the answer to that question is no. In fact, that's been an ongoing problem in the state of Pennsylvania. And I want to give you some context for that. So Pennsylvania actually ranks 45th out of 50 states when it comes to the share of revenue for school districts.
Wow.
So they have, among all 50 states, they have among the lowest budget for their public schools. In fact, there's been a total funding shortfall of at least $4.6 billion. And as you can imagine, John, the pain isn't shared by all schools in Pennsylvania. Some schools are funded better than others. For instance, Pennsylvania has one of the widest gaps between low wealth and high wealth school districts in the nation. In fact, a typical high wealth district in the Commonwealth spends about $4,800 more per student than a low wealth district, and the gap has been growing. And so finally, the governor addressed this to some extent. Governor Tom Wolf recently solidified his legacy with a historic $3.7 billion education budget, which includes a $1.8 billion increase for the current school year. But this has been an ongoing issue. And again, I just want to reiterate, when schools are so severely underfunded that they can't even provide the basics, the textbooks that the students need to get a decent education, I'm just gonna venture to say they're not spending resources on installing stripper poles, or they're not buying porn subscriptions for elementary school kids. So there's a lot of stuff to be scared about here in the United States. I think what we saw transpire in Florida with Hurricane Ian is a good example. The deterioration of our public education, another good example. Be scared about that stuff and go into action to change that. But to be scared about imaginary monsters that Republican candidates who have nothing else to campaign on throw in your direction, that just doesn't make any sense. Let's all be adults. Let's actually verify these claims.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.